like a craft beer through a pint glass. These are the gays of our lives. A show where Lisa and Avery get out their gay decoder rings to decipher the gay alphabet and bridge the gap between the older and younger LGBTQ community and everyone fucking else. And now here are your hosts, Lisa and Avery. Don't blame them.
Hey guys, it's Sears.
And Avery.
And today on The Gays of Our Lives,
we have a unique couple with a unique story.
we have Autumn and Lydia.
Right, exactly.
Hi! How are you guys?
Awesome.
Good, how are you guys?
Wonderful.
So how are you guys handling Queerentine?
Very well,
Yeah.
I'd say. We're handling it well as anybody else, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So Avery, you work at Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
And so I've taken this time off that Starbucks offered. And it was like when we first like were off and everything, we felt like we knew what we were gonna get ourselves into, what it was gonna be like. And quarantine is just, or Queerentine, I'm sorry. It's just like, it's just a day by day sort of thing, you know? So some days are really good and productive, and then some days are like, oh man, I have not talked to somebody
Besides
other than
each
my
other,
partner for, the last 5 days, you know?
So this is nice. This is a step.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I totally get that. Like, I love having my fiance in the house, but then it's like, we have not had anyone else to talk to for like weeks now. And I'm used to Starbucks. I'm talking to someone in 6 seconds. You know what I mean?
Definitely weird.
Yeah, for sure.
These FaceTime and Zoom meetings help so much.
Right.
Yeah, we were doing we were going live on Facebook for a while, like the first week and a half of Queerentine.
That was the week that we were feeling very productive.
Yeah.
And we were like, we have all this free time. We're just gonna go live every single day. And we discovered Skyrim, so
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Skyrim though is the bomb. Oh my God.
Wait a minute, what?
Oh man, I used to have
What
this
is it?
stealth character, right? Okay, and it was like, in my mind, it was like this whole thief thing, and it anyway, the whole point is I love that freaking game, and I spent a lot of time on that.
It's
What game?
really cool.
Skyrim, it's like you make this knight kind of guy, and he's like,
Okay.
he's the dragonborn.
Never mind, nerd. Never mind.
You just tried video games, Sears, you'd be just as addicted to Skyrim.
No, if it's not cards, I'm good.
Oh my goodness.
So,
I'm a card player.
just because you don't gamble. You can play cards in Skyrim. It's a mod somewhere.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand all that.
It's a deep
Not
game.
mine.
Anyways, that's not what we have you on for.
No, it's not. So just to get this kicked off, I really want to know, because I know you came out online last year because you are friends with my fiance. But that being said, I guess, how did you come out?
What are you talking to, Avery?
Oh, Autumn. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Autumn, I saw you come out last year. Trans woman. So I guess I want to know how that process started on your end before it ended up online.
Well, so it kind of has to do with our relationship story. So we met through work. We worked together at Starbucks. I was Lydia's store manager, but we became friends and that sort of stuff. And Lydia left the company, and Lydia needed a place to live. And so Lyd moved in with me. We were really good friends. And things were awesome. One thing led to another. This is a whole story in itself. But we developed a relationship, and it was kind of like a crazy set of circumstances, because I had been living my whole life as a gay man, and so it was really weird that I found myself very attracted to Lydia, and we just had this chemistry. And so the November, so I came out last July. That's when I came out online. And the November before that, so what, like 8 months before that, when Lydia and I first started dating, I was like, there's something I really need to tell you. There's something like really big that I need to tell you. I need to talk to you about it. It has to do with gender and sexuality and how I feel that I fit into the world socially. And so
you came out to me.
Yeah, so I came out to you, and then the cool thing is, right after that, Lyd, go ahead. I mean, you came out to me.
Oh yes, with Autumn coming out to me, I was completely excited for her. I was so happy, and I knew it was one of those things that like you were gonna take at your own pace. So just because Autumn comes to me and says, I feel like a woman, doesn't mean that she's gonna necessarily jump on, telling everybody right away. It's one of those things. Everybody kind of takes it at their own pace. But I actually discovered that I was non-binary through Autumn coming out to me, because the way that she explained how she felt about just her gender, when she originally came out, she said, I feel like a man and a woman. And this was just a few days before she actually came to me and said, okay, I just feel like a woman. But I found myself kind of just like thinking about it. I was in my head about it the next day, and not in a bad way. I was kind of like mulling over like my emotions, like how does this make me feel? Why am I not reacting to this at all, really? What am I thinking about? And I started realizing that I kind of felt the same exact way. So it was one of those things where before she came out, we kind of had an understanding at home before the rest of the world did.
Yeah. And so we've been kind of going through this process. Like, while it is very different for both of us, we've been going through this process together. And so that's what's been like so special about it.
So Lydia, you identify as non-binary then?
Yes.
And Autumn, you identify as a trans woman?
Yes. Yeah. As far as sexuality goes, it's one of those like really kind of like belabored things in my past where like telling someone that like I identify like as a sexuality, I identify as pansexual, right? But like going in like, oh, how would you say that you identify? Queer, pansexual, and then people have all those like additional questions. They're like, you're what? Yeah. And so like I identifying, just kind of saying like, oh, for my whole life I was like, or my adult life, I guess, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just a gay man. Like it's easier, like keep walking, we'll get there if we develop a relationship or that sort of thing. Yeah.
And how old are you guys again?
I'm 24.
And I'm 28.
Yes, you're 20.
I think.
Are you sure?
28, yeah.
So she asks me every couple months how old she is.
Yeah.
Tell her.
Hey, that's a great test. Also, you can add like who's the president. Maybe not that right now.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what month it is? All the things
right now.
Strokes, basically.
I mean, how many months until May?
Yeah, that literally.
I don't even know what day it is, honestly. I don't know what day of the week it is. So
that's the thing.
Man, I've been having to do online training for Starbucks, and it's the only reason I know that I have like a day of the week. Like I've been having to get on with like other shifts and things like that, and it's like, okay, it's Thursday because I have to.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're Zooming with like 18 other partners, and they're all talking over. And I just mute myself entirely. It's great.
Right.
Yeah, I have to have something scheduled to know what day it is. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Was there something that like really did inspire you to start exploring your sexuality that was like a specific point for you?
Which one of us are you
Yeah.
asking?
Oh, like both of you, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Autumn definitely sparked up my inspiration because I honestly, she lived her life as a gay man and I lived my life as a very feminine cis girl who was very into,
Mm-hmm.
I only dated men before Autumn and I lived my life so differently than I live now. I never expressed myself really in any sort of way that I do now. Back then, even a year and a half ago. And so Autumn was a huge inspiration for me because she, coming out to me and me coming out to her, we both were kind of like, all right, we live together. We just fell in love. We just came out to each other. What now? We have this space for each other, the safe space that we've never had before.
Right.
And so I think we both just kind of started rolling with it. We went to the store with each other. We helped each other pick out clothes. We just held no judgment to each other. Like there was no limits at all. And so it was a really special thing. And then last summer, 2019, when Autumn came out, we had just went to Electric Forest, which I had told her I had been before and it was her first festival. I said, you should go and you might not want to wear these clothes, but you should bring the clothes that you want to wear and keep them in your suitcase.
Great for that.
Exactly. I said, give it a day, check out the festival. And I have a feeling that you'll feel pretty comfortable being yourself for the week, once you spend some time there. And we did, we had an amazing time.
I mean it was by that second, cause it's like what, 5 days. It was like by that second full day of the actual festival itself. And I was just I was surrounded by all of these really free loving, fantastic, happy people and
queer people, a lot of queer people.
And it was just this really magical experience. And I had this process of coming out in a previous relationship, but then that didn't work out. It was a really bad situation to have been in. And so when I came into this relationship with Lydia, I knew from the gate, I need to have this ready. We're going to talk about this. This is going to be something that we both know we're both on the same page with, very early in the relationship. And then I'm going to learn how to, how to navigate that for my everyday life. And so when I was at the festival and it was the second day in and I realized I was in this really cool community of people, I was yeah, absolutely. So that was the first time that I wore a dress out in public and I talked to people and people responded to me differently. And
they complimented you. Nobody looked at you weird. Everybody was just you look good. And
but the biggest thing was they responded to me differently than I assumed they might. And that was really scary.
No, I believe so. Were you already Autumn by then? Had you already found? No,
I was still going by my dead name.
I was calling her Autumn at home, but yeah, she was still going by her dead name at that time.
Yeah.
We came home from the festival and 2 days after we got home, she just woke up, or I woke up one morning and she was like, "Hey, I came out on Facebook."
Because Lydia knew that was a step that I was really mulling over, but it was really it was almost depressing for me to come back from Electric Forest, go back into society, right? And we work customer service jobs, so you get it. It's oh my God, authenticity and vulnerability, while it's really difficult and it's hard to get to, once you experience that, there's no way to go back. Once you do that, it's it's draining to do that.
So how long have you guys been together?
About a year and a half now. We've known each other for 4 years.
Yeah, that's why that was hard. We've known each other for so long that it's
when did we even start?
Yeah.
It was November of 2018 when we got together.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Cool.
Okay, no, so you guys have been together about as long as Allie and I have then, because I think we've been together about a year and a half now. Yeah. Sounds right. But I feel that's what we agreed on the other day. I don't know. I know who I am in the house.
Right. Yeah.
I will say working in a customer service place can be really rough when you have alternative pronouns. I was a bartender actually when I first came out, and it was like my bar manager who made it very clear to people who sat down what my pronouns were. And that was before tea or anything like that. And it was like, it was life-changing. And then I had to come out to everybody because that felt really good, you know? So I get that when you finally get that in your life, you know, that's something you have to pursue. So Lydia, you don't work for Starbucks anymore. Is your new company, are they accepting of your pronouns, they, them, there?
Yes. Yeah. I actually, for a while, I'm just like in between jobs now, but weirdly enough, I left Starbucks and I went to Target, which Target's fantastic, with pronouns too. Very accepting, like loving environment, laid back. I actually worked for a Starbucks in the Target for a while, and I just wore my they them pronoun pen on my Starbucks apron, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I had some people like ask me like what it meant, and it was a cool way to like have a conversation with somebody who genuinely just didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the big thing that we found. We don't have enough non-binary people on to explain it, because I think that is the one gender that people struggle with the most.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think a lot of it has to do with like that binary language that we like live in. We immerse ourselves in this world that is so binary that it's like, okay, we're adding a third gender, and it totally like shatters like people's minds sometimes, you know.
Well, what do you say, Lydia, when somebody says to you, well, no, there's two genders, there's a male and the female? I mean, how do you explain that to them that they're wrong?
Well, you know, I've never actually had someone say anything like that to me, but if somebody were to ask me and just say like, I don't understand, I guess I would, it's mostly a feeling, really. Everybody has a different experience, obviously. So I'm not every single non-binary person feels the same when it comes to, you know, which, I guess, I don't know, how they feel about their gender. Yeah. Like I feel like a boy and a girl. It's kind of like, I'm kind of indifferent, really. Which kind of is like gender nonconforming. It's very similar. Although I do experience more body dysphoria or dysmorphia, and I sort of feel like some days I enjoy being a female, and some days I really don't. And it makes me feel weird. And some days I feel really good being a boy, and then some days I'm like, ugh. So, okay. I don't know. If somebody asked me that question, do what?
You're right, though, because that's what we always say, is that everybody's journey is not the same as anybody else's. Right. And I had somebody ask me that question. No, there's only 2 years. And I'm like, no, you got to listen, you know, but to explain it, I only know what some of the people have explained it and how they've explained it. So I would love, you know, I'd love to get more perspective so I can be more educated on it.
Right.
So, absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm learning too what it means, actually, because my entire life, like I said, I lived as like a straight female, and I presented myself very differently. And I think that stems from me growing up in a small town. I'm from Huntington. Yeah. So really small town, really small schools. I mean, I had gay friends. I was an ally, and I had even met some trans friends in high school. But it was always kind of confusing for me because, like, you know, I was best friends with a trans man in high school, actually. And I spent a lot of time with him. And I saw his experience kind of through his lenses during high school and what he experienced. And so I think part of me didn't come out then, or didn't want to explore these feelings then, that I've always had since I was a little kid, specifically because of watching his experiences and kind of being there for him. And I also didn't necessarily feel like I was just a boy, if that makes sense. So he went through all of this trauma and this teasing and just all these difficult times because he felt like he was born in the wrong body. And so I never felt like I was born in the wrong body necessarily. So I think that's why I also didn't have the words. I didn't have any way to describe how I felt. So I could never tell my parents and I could never tell my friends, but it's really cool now to be learning more about myself and this community and what it means to be non-binary. It's really special.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the generation we're in now too, to like be coming out this way, it's like there's literature and education available to us. But that being said, so then, oh, here I was. I had it all written down and nice. Okay, so you guys do these live videos, and when you guys do that, I guess I want to know like what your principal goal is when you set up to do those. Like, you have like a mission statement for that, or like is that just something like to keep you from going crazy when you're being?
What are they about?
It's a little bit of everything. You know, honestly, like the live videos are kind of like a newer thing that we were doing when we first started quarantine. But what isn't new about them is that like we're sharing our experience on social media. So like whether it's, you know, like a selfie we post or a picture of us together or a live video or something like that, you know, the biggest thing, at least for me, you know, Lydia can talk about this like if you'd like to, but you know, for me, it's like, I just want people to know that they aren't alone in this, because there are so many times, you know, I came out when I was 27 years old, right? And a lot of that had to do with the fact that like, I felt like, okay, I know I can't talk to my family about this. I don't know how people would react to this. I had all of these like reservations, right? And I really believe that like the biggest key to bringing people together is vulnerability, right? Like being honest about who you are, what your truth is. Those sorts of things will kind of pull back that uncertainty that people feel in social situations and be like, oh, you're just a person. You know, like it doesn't really matter how you identify. What matters is that you're a human just like me. And even if we are from completely different worlds, you're just a person. And vulnerability is that gateway, you know?
And I think our videos did start from like kind of boredom. We really like, you know, working Starbucks. I worked at Starbucks for 4 years and Autumn still works for Starbucks. We love people. Yeah. And you really learn about their missions and their values and connecting with people. And so I think when this quarantine started, we were like, oh gosh, like we're going to be away from people. We really need to reconnect. I feel like everyone has been sharing this news and it's just such a bummer. And so we went live just to kind of mess around. And then it ended up, it had been in the works for a while, us talking about sharing our story with people, because everybody sees what we post online, but nobody knew that, you know, nobody knew how we got together, how that we came out to each other. You know, Autumn shared a lot of her story online and coming out, but I never actually directly made a post or a coming out statement online about me being non-binary. So it's,
it was a really cool space to share that story. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
How are your parents with it now? One of you.
You go ahead.
My parents are pretty good. My parents have been very supportive and just fantastic, actually. Like they supported Autumn when, you know, she was my gay roommate, and then they supported Autumn when we got together, and then they supported Autumn when she became Autumn. Yeah. My mom is, you know, bought her dresses, and she's just like the sweetest thing. Yeah. So my parents are really cool. As it's kind of an interesting situation because I sat down with my parents and I told them about me being non-binary, and it's one of those things where they're just so like, okay, yeah, let's do that. About everything. So they're very accepting. They've always been really accepting in everyone, but I don't think they quite understand what non-binary actually means. They understand that I have a trans partner, but I don't think they understand that I fall under the trans umbrella. So they have yet to experience those pieces of me later on, depending on, I guess, what road I take. I'm just kind of going with it at this point. Just like,
I mean, even I can be honest, I don't think I really understood how much the non-binary really fell under that flag until I really got further educated. So I could see someone being from outside the alphabet, if you will.
Right, yeah.
Well, I told my mom, and she was like, oh, okay, so you're a tomboy. I've known that. And I was like,
Right. You just like wear boy clothes and you go play basketball. I get that.
Right.
And that's the thing. They don't really care how I dress. They don't care how I act. So like the only thing is like, I think if I ever did take tea, I would have to be like, hey guys,
Yeah.
just so you know. And they would probably be like, okay, which is very fortunate. I feel very lucky.
Yeah. As far as family goes, you know, for me, like family has always been kind of like a, it's more of a word of like symbolism, right? Family is like, you know, it is what we make, and queer people all around the world can totally identify with that feeling. So family in general, I would say, has been good. As far as parents, you know, like I don't have a dad. I was raised by a single mom. She has really struggled. She has really struggled, and I know that it wasn't really shocking to me that it was going to be such a struggle. She just comes from a very different generation. You know, she was 30 when she had me, so she's a little bit older, and so she doesn't really get it. But honestly, I think that with time, though, I think that with time that relationship can be mended. But it has been a very difficult time, to be like honest and vulnerable. So, but
did you struggle with you coming out as gay, or was it more when you came out as trans?
She actually, so she did struggle when I came out as gay. When I came out as gay, I was
13, 12, 10.
13. I was 13 going on 14. And so that was a really hard time. Grew up in the Midwest, where we grew up Missouri Synod Lutheran, like if you grew up in a church. So it's a pretty conservative sect of Lutheranism, which is pretty similar to Catholicism. But that was really challenging, coming out as gay and in that household with that kind of religion and politics kind of playing in. So I think that's why when I came out, I knew that wasn't necessarily going to elicit the most positive reaction. And you know, at the end of the day, it's okay, because I kind of came to terms with that, and that's why I decided to make my coming out story a little bit more public. And I did put it on Facebook, because it's like, you know, I've curated this really cool group of like friends and family and a tight knit community, right? Mm-hmm. And through that, I felt like that was a good place to start, and people who were on the outside of that would eventually come around and they would understand. But the people who I knew I had like loving kindness and support from were the people who I was going to tell first. And so that's what I told the people I worked with, the people who were in my family, you know, so.
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
No, I will say, I think all trans people kind of feel this. All you can really have is patience for the rest of the world to catch up to you. And it's like, and therefore, I mean, it's one of those things where it's nice to have the community around you that you have, honestly. And so honestly, I feel lucky, because there's a lot of people who don't have that. And it's also, I did this thing called, for IPAN, and Autumn and Lydia were there. Sears, I don't know if you remember me telling you about this, but yes. there was a non-binary person, and their store was refusing to use their pronouns.
Oh God, wasn't that?
And the whole room was horrified, but like at the same time, as much as it was a horrible situation, it was nice. They were met with like a super sense of community. And I think that's what I'm hoping you felt really in that moment, like when you came out online.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of that has to do with my work community. Like I really love what I do. You know, I try to really invest my everything into work and into connecting with people. And so that was my whole mission. And so when when I came out, like those were the people who really, like Lydia, obviously, but then like my second family, my work family are the ones that like really rallied around me, and like a lot of my regular customers and all of them. Like I feel so blessed. Yeah.
Like regulars who like get your pronouns right and are like on your journey with you. It's like a whole different thing. It's better than bar regulars, honestly. I say that. I think there's like a handful of bar regulars who I cherish and love who are like still, you know what I mean? But then like some of these Starbucks regulars, they just like get right into your journey with you, and it's amazing.
Honestly, well, and I always told people, like when I was a store manager, like there is something like truly, like this is gonna sound really cheesy and corny to like
it's totally
like people watching,
great.
But there is this magic that is imbued into coffee, like truly.
Yes.
That where people gathering around coffee, it is a force that is to be reckoned with. Truly,
it is like it's like an all-inclusive community. Coffee truly is.
Yeah, and it brings people together in the weirdest sorts of ways that you would never imagine. You know, it's like you start putting out those feelers and like really like investing in someone and investing in their story, and you're not sure why, and then one day, you know, their second grade teacher walks in line right behind them, and then they, you know, and that's why that conversation was happening for so long with that person. You know, it's like it's the magic of coffee.
Well, no offense, but I'm not a coffee person.
You know what? That's
Starbucks has more than just coffee.
Yeah, it's true.
I get water or hot chocolate if I go to Starbucks.
Hey, you know what? That's good. I love my hot chocolate drinkers.
Water, it's like
I don't go often. I don't go often, but you know, I've just never been a coffee person.
Do you need to go to the restroom?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Hey, Autumn.
What was that?
I was going to ask you, have you been taking estrogen?
Well, so no, I haven't. So when I came out, Lydia and I had already kind of decided, like, okay, so this is what our relationship looks like. This is a really cool space for us to be in. What we want to do, like our ultimate goal, is to have a family. And so to have a family, like luckily with the way that the world works, you know, we are able to conceive naturally. So what we want to do is postpone any of those like operations or those starting transitions so that we can biologically conceive and have a family of our own and that sort of stuff. So the process for me has been very what's the word I'm looking for? Optical. Like a lot of the transition that I've tried to go through has been like changing the way that I dress, the way that I do my hair, the way, like that sort of stuff has made me feel better about my personal transition.
Okay.
Because I am not at a space where I am ready for like hormones or that sort of thing.
Well, what's cool is that it gives us an opportunity kind of to also inform people on that trans people don't even necessarily have to take hormones to be trans. And that's what's cool is it surprised me how many people didn't even know that. So they would be like, why do you have facial hair? Why do you, stuff like that. Like if Autumn's a woman, why does she keep her beard? And it's like, they have this idea of what a trans person should look like if they're trans, or making assumptions that this person will do a full change or get surgery or take hormones. And it's a cool learning opportunity, I think, for everybody, because it's given us a chance to learn things about ourselves. Take time to see how we feel and what we want.
Well, and as a 45-year-old lesbian, which is kind of why this all started, my age group, we don't understand. So I'm one of those people that's like, okay, so if that's a trans woman, why does she not shave? You know what I mean?
Right.
So at first, before I had no clue.
No, it's totally fine because it is a very, like, just like just like when Lydia was talking, like it is a very personal experience, right? Like it, not personal, like I don't want to share, like personal, like it's my experience and this is what it is for me. And like dysphoria is like a really sneaky thing, you know, it sneaks in at the weirdest times, you know? And so like for me, like for when I first was like, oh my gosh, Lydia, I want to be a woman. So it was a January night. We were up until like 2 a.m. and I was in the bathroom and I shaved all my facial hair off. And I was like, I look weird to myself. Like I was like, this is such a bizarre feeling for me. And then like the stubble started growing back in and I started realizing like, oh my God, like I have so much more dysphoria about the way that I look and the way that I'm presenting to the world when I have stubble than when I have facial hair. But that's not necessarily the case for someone else going through the same experience for themselves. You know?
That's the nice thing about this show. I have learned so much. I mean, we had one episode we called The Bearded Lady.
Yeah.
And she had a full beard, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ever understood it unless we had been doing this. And a lot of my friends that are my age are like, I don't understand. But like you said, every story is different. And that's the thing that I've learned a lot about is everybody's identification is different. There's no, you're trans this way and that's it. You're non-binary this way and that's it. You're gay this way. You're straight this way. Blah, blah, blah. There is no textbook right answer.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, I think that like even going back to like the concept of like when somebody says that there are only two genders, like you like, honestly, like I feel like it's so like mind blowing to me to the concept that there's only two genders because like for millennia, you know, people have been operating in different ways culturally, that sort of stuff. As people spread across the globe, different cultures are founded and different cultures respect gender and sexuality and so in such a wide variety of ways, you know? And so like the idea that we know, right, it's pretty widely regarded that sexuality is a spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people can get on board with that and that concept, right? But if sexuality is a spectrum and gender is so tightly wound into sexuality, like it would only make sense that both of those things are on sliders and those things operate in ways that we wouldn't necessarily think of.
Right.
Well, and that's the thing I didn't understand, you know, at first, like the gender and sexuality are totally two different things. I didn't even think about it because like, I think it was Kelly that told us that, you know, the T shouldn't be in the LBG, you know,
no, that was Jennifer.
Was it Jennifer? I thought it was Kelly that said that too.
That was Jennifer Marshall who brought it up first, I think, on the show.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I see that, you know, I can see that.
Yeah.
But I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, it's like I think a lot of the reason why the T does show up in that LGBT thing does come from a storied history. You know, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, and a lot of that was propagated by trans women of color, right? And a lot of that movement was started there with those people, and gender and sexuality being a spectrum and being this kind of thing that is amorphous and different than what we normally thought of was definitely in their minds, right? Even if they didn't have the verbiage of it 50 years ago, you know?
Yeah. I don't understand why we wouldn't all be together.
Yeah.
I think, well, honestly, and I think though too, there's so much more education again out there for it now that I think like eventually people are going to see. Because for instance, like, I mean, Allie right now, like she's dated literally all kinds, but she's dating me from the beginning of my transition to being engaged to me now to like, when we get married, I'll be more alone. And it's like, you know, I think now sexuality is going to have trouble even with a label because I think that's becoming more fluid as well with the more education we have on gender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey guys, it's Lisa with The Gaze of Our Lives, and this week's episode is sponsored by my own CBD line, through Denver CBD. It's actually the first one in town here that has vitamin D in it, and it's also helping with different causes. The strawberry flavor, 5% goes to cancer support community. The orange flavor, 5% goes to the National MS Society. Use my code Lisa20 and get 20% off your order.
So for our next segment, it's called hashtag the gays ask.
Gays ask.
Okay, cool.
So,
With a K.
way up. Awesome. All right. And so basically this is just, we have 5 random questions to ask you. And you guys answer them however you want. They're really just kind of fun, lighthearted. If you don't want to answer something, you don't have to, but you'll probably answer everything.
Okay. Cool. Groovy.
All right. Do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first, Sears?
Go ahead.
All right. In a movie based on your life, who would you cast to play yourself? Both of you.
Oh boy. Ooh. Right.
Let's do it this way. I'll say who you would be.
But I don't know who you would be.
Oh, okay,
Sorry, I was thinking
who would I be? Who would play me in my?
Wait, who do you think would play me?
I was gonna say Anthony from Queerentine.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember. Lydia always says that I remind them of the girl from the Breakfast Club. I can't remember what the actress.
What's her name?
The weird one who eats the Captain Crunch sandwich. You know what I'm talking?
You know what? That's okay, because we have technology for this.
Yeah, right.
I'm totally looking that up right now. It's because we have.
Yeah.
She's the brown-haired girl, the really weird one.
Yeah.
I think if I had to,
right?
Yes.
Ali Sheedy.
Ali Sheedy.
Ali Sheedy,
Yes, a young Ali Sheedy.
I would either go.
We build a time machine.
I would either go with Anthony or Ruby Rose.
That's the movie now.
Anthony or Ruby Rose?
Ruby Rose or Anthony. One of the two.
Okay.
I could see that would be
Ruby Rose, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the expensive budget for a movie. If you can build a time machine.
Literally.
All right, Sears, you're up.
All right. What is the absolute first thing you're going to do when you get out of Queerentine?
I want to go to Hoppy Gnome and get some beer.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love Hoppy Gnome.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I miss their tacos.
Birthday this year. Their vegan options are bomb.
The bomb.
Oh, my gosh. I love that place.
Vegetarian tacos all the way.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I want to do, so there's this, so obviously like we went to Electric Forest last summer. We're not doing it this year.
They just canceled
whatever. What I really want to do is there's a really cool EDM night at a bar here in Fort Wayne, called O'Sullivan's. It's on Thursdays. I want to go there. I want to go there and I want to listen to some EDM music and
get the vibe.
Yeah.
Hula hoop, you know?
Yeah.
Hula hoop.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So my next question is, if you could have any superpower in the world, known or not known, what would it be?
What I usually say for this question is telepathy or like mind reading. I'm such an empath. Sometimes I feel emotions that people aren't actually feeling. You know, it's like I kind of like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet you're so sad. You know what I mean? And so,
I'm like, dude, I'm fine.
I'm like, I'd really love to know if that person was really as sad as I'm making them.
No, I get it, because then you're like projecting your own like feelings about a situation. Like I get embarrassed for people. Like if someone drops something, I get really embarrassed for them.
Yes.
This one woman, it's haunted me since 4th grade. I watched all of her groceries spill out of this bag, and I just watched in horror on the side as she picked them all up.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you gotta don't look. Oh God, don't look, because I'd be petrified if people were staring at me.
It's like 20 years later.
Yeah. Yes. What's your superpower?
I would teleport.
Teleport?
Places.
Oh,
there's so many places
that.
I want to go and I don't want to have to drive. So especially in the winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, and then going to work would be so easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Snap of a finger.
It is now. I love it.
All right. For both of you, who would you have dinner with if you could have dinner with anybody, and why?
I would probably go with like Barack Obama or somebody like that, because he's the homie and I just miss him.
You know what?
He just seems like a sweet person to have dinner with, and it'd be really historical and ironic.
Absolutely. If I could have dinner with anybody, Barack Obama was such a good answer.
I was thinking him.
If I could have dinner with anyone, it would probably be somebody who I really,
Henry Rollins.
Somebody who I really idolize. So like I consider myself a writer. I write a lot. Like I try to write poetry and that sort of stuff. But Henry Rollins, who was part of Black Flag, the Henry Rollins band, he is like, oh my God. Like I think he's just such a brilliant writer, and I love the way that he talks and he tells stories. Like if you ever have an opportunity to listen to one of his like audio recordings or whatever, like do it, because he's fantastic. I would love to sit down and have dinner with him. Yeah.
That's a good unique answer. I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I've got one more.
Okay.
But it's a challenge, okay?
Okay.
And you can both have an answer, or you can have a combined answer, however you want to answer this. Okay. What is your best dad joke?
You should know this.
I know. I'm literally obsessed with dad jokes. I listen to this podcast and they give dad jokes.
Wait, what's that one I said for a long time?
What was it?
Ooh, it was like we heard it on your podcast and I said it to you forever.
What?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I can't remember any either.
Wait.
Okay.
The Dawson's Creek thing?
What was it?
90108.
Oh my! I don't remember the punchline to that one though. So now everybody's like, great dad joke. Or quality content.
That's all right. The great thing is there's like a post edit, so you just have to think of a dad joke.
Right.
It's gonna take a second.
I know. I'm like.
You put us on the spot, Avery.
I know.
That's all right. That's all right. No pressure. Just think. It can be the worst dad joke. The whole point is it's a dad joke.
Okay. So this is literally the only one that I can think of is like one of like the only dad jokes that like I hear pretty regularly. So you probably know this one. But did you hear about the blind man who fell into the well?
No.
He couldn't see that well.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah, I know.
I was putting it all on her because
I heard a really good one, but I can no concept of what it was now. I cracked up, but I can't think of it.
I know. They're honestly, it's like an underappreciated art form.
Oh man, it's like a game I play in the mornings when I open at my Starbucks. I'll just go over headset and I'll just be like Googling them on my phone and saying them.
Stop it. Oh my gosh, I love that.
I hate it so much. Like one time I was and then like I'll just be like, not like mean on purpose, like everybody gets, I'm kidding, but I'll be like,
right.
I'll be like, hey, what did you hear about that Mexican dish that you're not allowed to have? And then Charlie goes, what's that? I'm like, nachos.
Gay.
I love it. I love it.
That's my off the cuff dad joke right now.
It's perfect. Thank you for that. Thank you. It was a real struggle for us to find one. But, yeah, that's why Avery added it. Avery was like, well, I told you I was a comedian.
You had warnings.
He didn't say good, did he?
I'm not say good comedians. I would not lie.
Making sure you didn't say something that you weren't.
Yeah, right.
Easy now. All I say is I'm handsome and I'm kind of funny. That's the only way I introduce myself.
There you go.
He's got jokes.
We appreciate you guys so much coming on and visiting with us and explaining your story. I mean, I learned something for sure. So,
Good.
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity. I mean, I think it was really exciting when Avery reached out, because I had no idea that. Well, I didn't know that you and Al were partners, and I did, but I didn't put all of those pieces together until we were messaging on Facebook.
Well,
I
had listened to this podcast like a year ago on my own. I didn't even found it. Yeah, I found it on Spotify before I even had made that connection as well. And so I had listened to a few episodes actually. And so when you reached out and we were talking about it, I was like, wait a minute. I literally this was a podcast that inspired me at the beginning of my journey. And so it's such a cool thing that we just did this. So
hey,
that's so
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
telling us that.
Yeah. We don't get to hear enough of that, and it's like, it's always nice to hear what you're doing is taking an effect, and it's awesome to have you guys on too, because again, you guys are a very rare thing, especially in Indiana, and especially that kind of love and being able to display that in such a public way. Is there any social media you'd like to share for people to follow your story?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, okay, you go first.
No, go ahead. No,
you can just I put my name in the link. Lydia Bacorn is my Facebook. We share pretty publicly on Facebook. Also, my Instagram is Hoopster Lid, so it's H00 instead of regular O's. So,
old
because you're a baller. That's all right.
I hula hoop. I'm a hula hooping hipster hippie, so it's Hoopster Lid. LYD.
Oh, it's for the hula hoop. Okay, now it all comes together.
Now it's all.
I thought it was like hoops, like basketball,
No, I have this is only part of my collection, but I have.
Oh, it's so this is You
Lid's a flow artist. Yeah, so but then for me, Facebook, Autumn C. Rivas, and then on Instagram,
they fell.
It's Autumn C. Rivas too, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
It was nice talking with you.
Yes,
if you guys want to be on our show, you contact us at www.laughs.life. There's a contact me page on there. Or
you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, or YouTube if you want to catch up with all of our shows and stay up to date with us every Tuesday at 7. That's as close as it gets. Boom.
Boom. Bingo.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you guys. Thank you.
This has been Gaze of Our Lives. Make sure to check out the Gaze online at www.laughs.life.